The funding for this video is provided by the amazing members of my Patreon. Also contributions from viewers like you. Thank you. Yeah, I started from PBS Kids. What you gonna do? Fight me? Anyway, roll the video. Diabetes is something that I have always known about since forever. For numerous people within my family have it, and diabetes is a subject that is heavily talked about within the Black community because studies have shown that Black people are more likely to die of diabetes than white people. Also, Afro-Latinos are more likely to die of diabetes than Latino people who are not of African descent. Now, before we go forward, I know someone is watching this and doesn't know exactly what diabetes is, and it's not your fault because, like I said, the goal and purpose of my channel is just basically coming to the conclusion that our American school system has failed us on learning things that we should know about. In my opinion, diabetes is something that we should know about, but plenty of people don't. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put in a definition about the basics of diabetes, and then we'll continue on with the subject matter. Okay, hi you guys. I don't want you guys to think I am being condescending to you guys about the subject of diabetes, but because this is something that a lot of people just genuinely don't know and don't understand, I think it's best to go to kidshealth.org to get the definition and explain it for you all because it's the simplest and easiest way that I feel as if I can explain this subject to you all without being confusing. So I'm not talking down to my audience. I'm not trying to talk to y'all like y'all are stupid because you're not. I just think this is the best way to go about it. So, what is diabetes? Diabetes is a disease that affects how the body uses glucose, a sugar that is the body's main source of fuel. Your body needs glucose to keep running. Here's how it works. You eat, glucose from your food gets into your bloodstream. Your pancreas makes a hormone called insulin. Insulin helps the glucose get into the body's cells. Your body gets the energy it needs. The pancreas is a long gland in your belly that helps your food digest. It also makes insulin. Insulin is kind of like a key that opens the door to the cells of your body. It lets the glucose in. Then the glucose can move out of the blood into the cells. But if someone has diabetes, the body either can't make insulin or the insulin doesn't work in the body like it should. The glucose can't get the cells normally, so the blood sugar levels get too high. Lots of sugar in the bloodstream makes people sick if they don't get treatment. And also, I feel as if it's important to make it clear that there are two different types of diabetes. You have type 1 diabetes and then you have type 2 diabetes. In type 1 diabetes, the pancreas can't make insulin. The body can get glucose from food, but the glucose can't get into the cells where it's needed. Glucose stays in the blood and makes the blood sugar levels extremely high. With type 2 diabetes, with type 2, the pancreas still makes insulin, but the insulin doesn't do its job as well to the body. Glucose just hangs around and builds up in the blood. The pancreas even more insulin to the glucose to get into the cells, but eventually gets worn out from working so hard. As a result, blood sugar levels rise too high. Now, in my opinion, diabetes low-key falls into the same category as period discourse because as something that seems taboo to talk about, we need to talk about it more because it just results in so much misinformation that gets told about it. So with periods, because of the lack of attention this subject gets in our media, people have this weird fucking notion that if you get rid of your period, that's a good thing, and you can get rid of it by working out more than you should and cutting out certain foods out of your diet. And baby, that is just a sign of malnutrition. If you are somebody with a vagina, getting your period is a sign that you are healthy. And I feel like with diabetes, plenty of people don't know what to think about it in general because of the lack of education that we have on it. Now, the reason why I personally am educated on it is because diabetes runs deep in my family. Literally, so many family members I have had have it and have died from it. It's been a very much stressful time, and because it runs badly within my family, I am prone to getting it. And before anybody tries to say anything, so many people have this notion that you will only get diabetes if you are overweight, and that is not necessarily the case. You can be skinny and get diabetes. Like, if I develop diabetes, it's okay. things happen. It's not gonna be the end of the world like the Disney Channel PSAs try to make it out to be. But plenty of people were not introduced to diabetes through their family. They learned about diabetes through Disney Channel. And fuck, Disney Channel did not do a good job of it. Now, before we begin, I just want to do a quick little self-promo. Use code HOTSPOT35 for 35% off your orders on harriyannahook.com. Everything on my website is discounted for 35% off up until Christmas Eve on the 24th. That's just my little Disney-cember gift to you, while Disney-cember already is a gift to you because you get a 24-day straight chaos from the captain. Now let's go ahead and continue on with today's subject matter, as we are just talking about in the past, during what everyone likes to call the golden era of Disney Channel, because as much as people don't want to admit it, some people do, some people don't, this literally was the golden era of Disney Channel because it was the era where Disney Channel was making Disney the most moolah. They like that shmoney that was bringing in, okay? So before we go into talking about Hannah Montana, because that's what a majority of this video is going to be about, we will go ahead and just talk about what was going on with Nick Jonas first, and then we will move on to that next.
Between TV appearances, recording, and performing, I've had a busy year. But I wanted to take a minute to tell you about something very personal to me: juvenile diabetes. In 2005, I was diagnosed with diabetes. I became one of the 3 million Americans with type 1 diabetes. And each year, 15,000 new kids are diagnosed just in the US. So if you have diabetes, you're not alone. And if you don't, you can learn more and help by calling the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation at 800-533-CURE. That's 800-533-CURE. Stay informed and stay in control.
And looking back at it, it was a bit distasteful how Disney Channel kind of paraded him around with this condition. When it came to Nick, they didn't really tell us much of anything about diabetes, I'd say. And when they did, I'm just like, okay, thank you for giving me this, but I feel like you could have told us a little bit more, because we still may be a little bit confused on the subject matter. He was like, hi, I'm Nick Jonas and I have diabetes. Please go to this website to learn more information on the subject matter. And this was during the era when the internet was like slow as hell everywhere. So it didn't matter how good of your internet was, it was still kind of shit. So that's one thing that always kind of bothered me at the end of a lot of these little PSAs that Disney Channel, and not just Disney Channel, a lot of other programs will do just as well. They'll be like, go to this website right here for more information. And a lot of times that information that be on the website be confusing as hell for the targeted audience that they have. So I feel like they really could do a lot better when it comes to PSAs. They can have longer, you know how they did like Nick News with Linda Ellerby, where it was just like 20 minutes of us learning about something. I feel like that is the approach that they really need to go through when it comes to these kind of programming that they provide. But also thinking back to Nick Jonas with his diabetes like infomercial, I'd say it was extremely over dramatic, and that wasn't very much helpful for it either, because so many people, I see it's like a talk on social media when people bring up an entire thing about Disney talking about how Nick Jonas had diabetes. Plenty of them said they remember crying and being sad about him having diabetes because they thought it was the end of the world and they thought he was gonna die. It was just them scaring the audience a bit with the subject matter, and I'm pretty sure that wasn't the intent that Disney was trying to go for. They, like I said, some people just kind of don't realize some of the things they're doing are offensive or just wrong and distasteful. I personally think that they should have had like a 22-minute special about diabetes that featured Nick to help people learn. Like, it's just something that was like a little bit too quick. Diabetes is not something that you can just learn about within like a minute. That is why we be telling y'all not to get your information from Twitter when it comes to learning about the world and health and whatnot, because you literally cannot learn something in 3 sentences or less. I'm sorry, you just genuinely can't. You need to be having that longevity when it comes to learning things. That's why we tell y'all don't be getting y'all information from TikTok too. Go watch a damn documentary, read a damn book. I will never miss the opportunity to tell y'all to read a book. I remember Ophelius Maximus. He knows who he is. I love him. He's one of my best supporters. I adore him. He said something like, the captain is never gonna miss the chance to tell y'all to read a damn book. Exactly. Hannah Montana came out during the very special episode era that TV was in, and I feel like TV still does very special episodes, but because we are in a day and an age where people want to be more socially aware, and very special episodes aren't just like in your face anymore. Like, they're just like a little bit more subtle. So in the past, when they did like a very special episode, it was like slapped in your face. It felt like a tone change, I'd say, for the show oftentimes, because I know Moesha had this problem. But yeah, this was like the era of the very special episode where they would have one or a few episodes in a show be about a serious matter. In the Black community, we like to often call the very special episode the AIDS episode, because within Black sitcoms, when they would have a very special episode, it would be about the subject of AIDS. And another episode that is a very special episode that a lot of people are familiar with would have to be the racist episode of That's So Raven. That's a very special episode. So Hannah Montana's very special episode, mind you, that a lot of people don't even really remember that this show had this episode, because I asked my server what was going on. Like, hey, do you guys remember this and how it was handled? They were like, no, I didn't even know there was a diabetes episode. So I get it. I understand why people didn't know this episode exists. And it wasn't really played all that much because they ended up getting yanked at the last minute when it aired, and they had to reshoot the ending because people that have like children that have diabetes, they were not happy with this. They were not happy with the way this episode was planned. They did not like the way it ended. And I'm gonna go ahead and tell you that episode is still up on bootleg on YouTube if you guys want to go see the original. It's called No Sugar, No Sugar, along those lines, but it's still on YouTube if you want to watch it. I remember I actually watched it because my ass was nosy back in the day, and I wanted to see that lost episode of Hannah Montana that didn't air because the parents hated it so much. And I most definitely see why, because the episode's fucking terrible. And they did cut some scenes out, and they did reshoot the scene, and then they aired it. And I'm just gonna let you guys know now, this episode should have been scrapped altogether. It wasn't fucking good to begin with. They should have just scratched it and started over with something new. It was just out of touch, I'd say. Like a lot of things that Disney Channel does. And for a serious subject matter like this, for this to happen was just a bit unacceptable, I'd say. It's just, you already have it where parents are like, hey, parents with diabetes, like people that are the affected parties, are telling you, hey, don't do this. This episode was not right. And then they were like, oh, okay, we'll just go in and fix it a bit. I'm like, no, I really think it should have been scrapped altogether, because most of the episode that ended up airing, like the one that actually aired on television, was not that good. It wasn't much better. Like, it was a bit better, but that wasn't saying much. Hi everyone, the captain here. I just wanted to get on here real quick and tell you guys thank you so much for your support. I have gotten so much fan art from you guys, and I've met plenty of y'all in person at the conventions that I have been at. And also thank you guys so much for coming to the panels that I host. It means so much to me. You guys are so great. I appreciate every little last bit of support you guys give me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I can say thank you 100 times, but I truly do mean it. Thank you. now it's time for a breakdown. Okay, so what exactly happened in this episode? I'm gonna talk about it when it was still sugar, no sugar. And then when it was changed into uptight, Oliver's all right. It's the same episode, mainly the diabetes episode of the show. I'm gonna basically break down what happens in both of these, but not really much of anything changed until like the ending. So I'm just gonna walk y'all through it and then talk about the two different endings. Let's go. In the episode, Miley and Lily are being nosy because they think Oliver likes the nurse. Listen, I didn't even like this plot. I didn't like this plot as a kid. I still don't fucking like it now. The fact that they used this shit to make a PSA episode about diabetes, it was very distasteful. But anyway, let's just continue. They try to get Oliver to tell him what is wrong with him, what is going on, but he freaks out because he's not ready to talk about it. He doesn't want to talk about it. So you want to know what Miley and Lily do? They overstep their boundaries. And they go to the nurse themselves to ask, hey, what the fuck is going on? Because we need to know. She tells them that Oliver has diabetes, which she was not supposed to do. This is how you know the people that be making these Disney Channel episodes sometimes, they do not be doing their research. But when it comes to nurses, the only person that she should be talking to about that right there was Oliver and his parents. Like, this was something that she literally could not have told Miley and Lily. We're gonna get back to that later. So moving on to the party. Basically, y'all know Miley's annoying ass friend Tracy. They go to her party, but you know, this is when they're in disguise as like famous people. You know, she is Hannah Montana, Lily is Lola, and then Oliver is Mike. Y'all know how it goes. Those are like Hannah Montana's favorite friends. This show was weird. But anyways, they go to this party and they notice that it's just kind of like a candy kind of party, a sweet kind of party. Like everything there is just kind of like sugar. Like y'all know Sugar Rush up in Wreck-It Ralph? That is how this party was. And that kind of scares Miley and Lily. And they're just kind of trying to stop Oliver from eating everything and anything that like he comes in touch with. So after this scene, the original ending, Oliver goes off about how he can't have sugar. So this was the scene that really pissed off parents, and I understood it because this was just kind of like a bit of a spread of like false information, because that is not true. People who do have diabetes can in fact have sugar. So in the reshoot, he says that he can't have sugar. But he just needs to be more careful with it and make sure to check his like, you know, blood levels and all of that jazz, which was good. I'm glad they did change that. And then it just ends. And I'm pretty fucking sure that Oliver's diabetes is never brought up again. I don't recall it being brought up again. Like, ever. And, this was not well done. This episode was not good. Like I said earlier, it should have been caught all together. And the reason why I think it should have just been cut all together, because when they fixed it, they really just fixed the ending. It was still very much awful with the exception of the scene that got reshot. And I think that scene that got reshot, it most definitely needed, because I understood Oliver's frustration in that moment about him not being able to do the things that he usually did. I get that right there. But like I said, this is Disney Channel. This is family entertainment. The targeted audience for this show was like 9-year-old girls. So yeah, I can see most definitely why it needed to be reshot for its audience. So the first thing we need to talk about is just the way it was promoted. The way it was promoted was terrible, okay?
Special all-new Hannah Montana. Oliver, Miley, and Lily have always been the closest of friends. So Miley and Lily are surprised when Oliver starts keeping a secret.
Dallas,
Come on, guys, just leave me alone, okay?
What, are they in for a surprise of their own?
This is still all very new to Oliver, and he's struggling with it. So please, let him tell you, okay?
we're his friends. I mean, we want to help him.
An all-new Hannah Montana. Sunday at 8, 7 Central, part of New and...
The main issue with this episode's promotion is that it was all like, Oliver has a secret. Oliver has a secret. And y'all know how Disney Channel likes to just make everything over dramatic. It was just a bit distasteful, as I don't think they should have went about this as like it being like drama or whatnot, because that is what the trailers were like kind of pointing at. Like it was like, oh, this is a dramatic storyline, isn't it? The third, when really it was just something about life that just necessarily happens. And when you're dying, it was a bit distasteful as you are diagnosed with something that will literally affect you forever. This wasn't necessarily the best way to go about that. And it just really scared the audience, and it led to a bit of fear-mongering, I'd say. And they really should have made it explicitly clear in the promo that this episode was going to be about diabetes. I think that this is one of those things where they should have just explicitly came out and said what it was going to be. He has a secret route just to build up the hype around this episode. But I understand, like, this was basically the very special episode and they did want people to watch it, so they had that over-dramaticness going on. But when it comes to something as serious as diabetes, I think they should have been a bit more straightforward with their audience about what they were going for. That is just one issue I never really liked with Disney Channel. I don't like how they talk to their audience like they're stupid. No, please stop doing that. Talk about Miss Miley Stewart and Lily Trescott's behavior. I did not like them much in this episode. And that was really up until the ending point. But these two, woo, up until I'd say when Oliver talks to them about having diabetes and fact check them, because the way they responded was because they knew very little to nothing and they wanted to protect their friend. And that aspect right there, I understand it, I get it, because they're young and they didn't fucking know. And like I said, I am somebody that grew up in an environment surrounded by diabetes. Like a whole bunch of my family members had it. I get it. I understand that. So, of course, I was somebody that was going to be more aware of that. But these were two little white girls that ain't know shit about diabetes. And the reason why I said that is because diabetes is more likely to happen with the black community than the white community. So, I completely get why they just don't know shit about this subject right here. So, like, y'all never seen the movie Soul Food? Like, there's just so much talks within the black community about our health, like high blood pressure and diabetes. It's just very much stressful. And I think that is part of the reason why it upset me so bad to see the way this episode was handled. It just was not done the best. Disney really should have done more of their research with this subject right here. Okay, let's continue. But it just resulted in them trying to get Oliver not to eat anything at this party that they were at. And I know they didn't mean this out of malicious intent. They were just being protective right there. But what pains me the most about this is that them doing that to Oliver was him able to kind of catch on to the fact that they were being nosy about what was going on with him, with his health, his physical health specifically. And that's hurtful to know that your friends went behind your back and did something like this. Like, Oliver was not ready to tell them. Like, we actually saw how upset he was because he genuinely didn't want to tell them. And I get it. It's something scary to deal with. He was still very much trying to figure out how to deal with it by himself. So having something that affects your health for the rest of your life, it is very much hard. I get it. Like, and I don't want to sit here and just necessarily use myself as an example because people tell me I talk about myself too much on this channel. But anyway, eczema is on my hands. I have gotten comments before about people making comments about the way my hands look weird and shit like that. Eczema on my hands has affected my life in so many ways that I was just not prepared for. I cannot wear long acrylic fake nails anymore. That is something that had always been a staple to me since I was 13. My nails used to stay done. I either used to wear them like long and natural, or I would wear like fake nails. I can't do that shit no more, and that shit pains me, okay? I can still wear nail polish and stuff. I don't have my nails polished right now. Like, you can see the black chipping off, but I can't do that. And then I also had to deal with mean, nasty looks when I'm out in public and I'm shopping and buying things and whatnot, and the people see my hands and they kind of make like a little distasteful look or whatnot, and I just try to ignore it. Like I said, don't necessarily be mean to somebody that has eczema. It doesn't mean we're dirty, okay? We can't help the way things look on our body, and I just so happen to have eczema on the part of my body that like I have to do everything with. It hurts. Like, sometimes I have a hard time typing. There's sometimes where I kind of have to take a break with what I'm doing in order to, like, you know, get through it. Like, it's actually really bad, and there's certain things that I can't eat anymore. Like, there's certain finger foods that I can't eat anymore without like a fork or something, because if I actually touch it with my hands, I will have like a bad flare up and it'll burn or whatnot. Like, and while I'm not saying that eczema is on the same level of diabetes, but it is something that I was not ready to talk about for the longest because it was scary. I was scared about the changes that my body was going under. Because I'm somebody that's dealt with eczema since I was little, like since I was about 3 years old. But as you get older, your body changes, and it really was something I did not expect from when I got into my 20s, and it started to get on my hands really bad, and it just led to numerous other problems. So I understand completely why he was not ready to talk about that, okay? It's fucking scary when it comes to things that are affecting your health, and they're most likely gonna be with you forever and always. But this episode right here just also clearly showed you how the friendship dynamic was. Like, they're young. We all did stupid shit at this age, okay? I get it. Like, but in situations like this, I really didn't like how we seen like these three be horrible to each other, because I don't care, all three of them were bad friends to each other at some point in the show, okay? And listen, the lessons that we learn a lot with Hannah Montana with these three right here is how you shouldn't treat your friends. Hannah Montana reminds me a lot of That 70s Show, and that aspect being the main reason why the main friend circle in That 70s Show was friends with each other is because nobody else wanted to fucking talk to them. Nobody else wanted to be their friends. That is how Miley, Lily, and Oliver were. What nobody else at that school fucking with them. They just weren't. So when you have a situation like that, because I get it, I understand. I've been in situations like this before. They're fucking awful. I am telling y'all, I had a really horrible childhood growing up. But when you get in situations like this, you're all bound to be horrible to each other. Like, it's just kind of like a bunch of broken people put together. Like, I get it, okay? But when we see Miley, Lily, and Oliver have like their problems and whatnot, usually at the end of the episodes, we would see that these three would learn a lesson about, oh, don't treat your friend like that. Sometimes, not all the time. But here, this is one of the episodes where I really think that Miley and Lily should have learned like about their wrong behavior, and they didn't. Like Oliver, like talking to them like, hey, I have diabetes and this is how I have to handle it and all that. Like, I know, because they were just, the intent I understood was there, but the best way they went about it was awful, because they shouldn't have been snooping on him. I'd say that. But like I said, while Miley and Lily are his best friends, that still wasn't really any of their business. And maybe if Miley and Lily weren't being nosy, this all wouldn't have happened in the first place with, you know, them in the party and all of that shit, and what went on with the nurse. And I know the nurse told him that he has diabetes, and this scene was a bit more for the audience, I say, than it was for Miley and Lily, as we, the audience, wanted to learn about diabetes. Remind you that this is a lot of people's first introduction to what this word is and what this condition was. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that she could have got fired for this shit. She was not supposed to do that. Nope. Was not supposed to do that. That literally was like a violation. Nurses and doctors legit cannot give other people your information. Like, that's just like a fact right there. And I don't like how sometimes, like, somebody had mentioned something like this before that TV likes to do, where they will override something for the sake of like the main character to progress or whatnot. I don't think it was necessarily okay for them to change like a basic ass rule that a lot of people are aware of when it comes to the medical field, just for the sake of the main characters to like grow and progress. Overall, this episode and the Nick Jonas PSA, they're just bad. They're just bad. Okay? And I know that diabetes is something that we as a society do need to be more educated on, okay? Like I said, we can always just blame our American school system for the lack of education that we have on so many fucking things, because there's so many things that we really should have been learning in school that we don't learn about them, and that is what results in so many of the problems that a lot of us face in adulthood, because there's just things that we need to be taught within school, and then it just leads to a lot of bullshit later on, and then a lot of this bullshit is explained through Hollywood on our screens, because TV and movies is how a lot of us learn about the world and whatnot. Because let me tell y'all, I learned more about AIDS through black sitcoms than I did in school. Like, they literally only gave us, like, y'all know in them health classes when you learn about STDs and shit. That's like the little bit that I have learned about AIDS, like right there when we were like on the STD section of my health class. And that was pretty much it. There was nothing else more that we learned about it. I learned more about AIDS through Tyler Perry. I'm not even joking. The Parkers, A Different World. They did a horrible job when it came to educating us on certain things like that. And they didn't even bother to teach us about, what's this? Diabetes. How did I forget just that fast? And then I remember in school that we even did learn about periods. And mind you that, like, when we learned about periods, they most definitely could have done a much better job about it, because they really just told us, oh, basically you're bleeding from your vagina for like 3 to 10 days and you need to wear pads and tampons, you know, to catch it. And they showed us how to put in a tampon on like this diagram of on the wall of like a vagina and shit like that. They showed us how to put on a pad, like using like a demonstration of it, what it's gonna look like in panties and stuff like that. Like, they did shit like that, but like, they didn't tell us about the mood swings. They didn't tell us about the appetite changes, and they most definitely did not fucking tell us about cramps and how to deal with them shits. I'm telling y'all, our school system has failed us on so many things. And also, this right here low-key failed us when it came to learning about the subject of diabetes. I know diabetes is something that we as a society should all take the time to learn more about, okay? And Disney, as it is a family network, they tried to do this, but they fell very, very flat. And it felt as if they most definitely should have taken more time with this, while also not trying to push fear onto its audience.
'Cause I work hard to get to this point in my life. I'm blowing up, so don't hate, just congratulate.
Powerpuff Girls will just blow your mind. Buttercup like villains 3 at a time. Bubbles will smile while kicking your butt, and Blossom will lead them out of their rut. Cherish and Powerpuff, 2 of a kind. Both wanna save the world before bedtime. From Townsville, Memphis, New York to LA, the Powerpuff Girls are just here to stay.
They coming through and fighting, and everyone they shocking. You know no one can stop them all because of the chemical X. They coming through and fighting, and everyone they shocking. You know no one can stop them all because of the chemical X. They coming through and fighting, and everyone they shocking. You know no one can stop them all